Picture this: a woman, alone, crouched beneath a rock overhang as night falls. No hospital, no doctor, no painkillers, just her, the dark, and a baby that is coming whether she's ready or not. Now, here's the strange part. Compared to almost every other mammal on Earth, human birth shouldn't work this way at all. A newborn zebra stands on its own legs within minutes of hitting the ground. A baby chimpanzee slides out of its mother's body with room to spare. Its skull small enough to pass through the pelvis with ease. But a human baby's head is so large, and a human mother's pelvis so narrow, that birth becomes one of the most physically dangerous events in the entire animal kingdom. So here's the mystery that has puzzled scientists for decades. If childbirth is this dangerous, this tight, this risky, this unforgiving, how did any ancient mother survive it? Alone in the wild, with no hospitals, no forceps, no modern medicine. Thousands of generations before the first doctor ever existed. And here's the part that changes the whole picture. New evidence suggests many of them weren't alone at all. Something happened deep in our evolutionary past that may have quietly reshaped human society, starting at the exact moment a baby was born. To understand why birth became so dangerous, imagine two evolutionary forces pulling in opposite directions, like a rope being tightened from both ends. On one side, bigger brains. Over millions of years, the early ancestors of humans were rewarded again and again for thinking faster, planning further ahead, and solving harder problems. Every advantage in intelligence meant a slightly bigger skull was worth carrying into the next generation. On the other side, walking upright. Standing and moving on two legs freed the hands, but it forced the human pelvis to reshape itself into a narrow, load-bearing frame built for balance, not for delivering an oversized skull. Now put both of those pressures together. A skull growing larger with every generation. A pelvis growing narrower to support an upright body. Something had to give, and it was the birth itself. Anthropologists have a name for this collision: the obstetrical dilemma. It's important to be clear about what that term actually means. It's a proposed trade-off, not a proven fact. Researchers still argue over exactly how much of the story it explains, and newer studies suggest metabolism and the timing of fetal growth may matter just as much as pelvis width. But one thing isn't in dispute. In the fossil record, in skeletons tens of thousands of years old, the evidence is consistent. Human birth became tighter, harder, and riskier than it is for almost any other primate on the planet. Which raises an uncomfortable question. If birth was this dangerous, shouldn't evolution have found a way to fix it by now? The answer isn't hiding in the shape of the pelvis. It's hiding in something far stranger: the way the baby itself has to move to be born at all. Picture yourself as that ancient mother again, deep into labor. Your baby isn't simply pushing straight down and out into the world. It's turning, twisting through a narrow passage like a key working through a lock that almost doesn't fit. A human baby enters the birth canal facing sideways. Then, as it descends, it has to rotate. Then, it rotates again, so that by the time it's finally born, it emerges facing backward, away from its mother, not toward her. Compare that to a chimpanzee. A baby chimp is born facing forward, directly toward its mother. That means a chimpanzee mother can reach down between her own legs, grab her baby with her own hands, and physically pull it the rest of the way out. A human mother cannot do that. Her baby is born facing the wrong direction for her to help. Turned away, out of reach, at the exact moment help would matter most. That single anatomical detail may be one of the most quietly important clues in the entire story of human evolution, because it suggests something many researchers now consider highly likely, even though it can never be proven with total certainty for events this old. Ancient mothers needed help. Not medicine, not tools, just hands. Someone else's hands. At the one moment, a woman's own hands couldn't reach. But if that's true, it changes everything about how we're allowed to imagine early human life. It means birth was never meant to be a private event, hidden away and endured alone. It means, from the very beginning, birth may have been a group event. Picture a small band of early humans sheltering in a cave. Maybe 200,000 years ago, firelight flickering against stone walls. A woman is in labor, and crouched beside her isn't a stranger. It's someone she has known her entire life. A sister, her own mother, another woman from the group who has done this before, and lived to tell it. This idea has a name in anthropology, the midwife hypothesis. It's important to say clearly what this is: a leading theory, not a confirmed historical fact, but it rests on real physical evidence, not guesswork. The backward-facing baby is one clue. Another is timing. Human labor is unusually long compared to other apes, sometimes stretching across many hours, which happens to leave exactly the kind of window a group would need to notice, gather, and respond. If this theory holds, it points to something remarkable. Assisted childbirth may be older than agriculture, older than written language, quite possibly older than art itself. Cooperation between women in the single most vulnerable moment a human body can experience may be one of the oldest social bonds our species ever built. But then a darker question rises to the surface. If early humans needed each other just to survive being born, what does that say about how fragile human life really was, every single day? Here's where the story turns darker still. Even with help nearby, birth in the ancient world remained brutally dangerous. Bioarchaeologists digging through prehistoric burial sites have found something haunting. The remains of women who died with a baby still positioned partway through the birth canal, frozen at the exact moment things went wrong. This pattern doesn't appear once. It shows up across multiple sites, multiple cultures, multiple centuries, a quiet, physical record repeated in bone. It's part of why many researchers estimate maternal mortality in ancient populations was dramatically higher than it is today, though the precise numbers remain debated. What isn't debated is the direction the evidence points. For most of human history, childbirth was one of the single leading causes of death for women. Full stop. That's not a comfortable fact to sit with, but it explains something else. Something almost every ancient culture on Earth seemed to arrive at independently. Across continents and across thousands of years, the moment of birth was treated as sacred, as dangerous, and as deeply communal, surrounded by ritual, surrounded by song, attended by women specifically trained, generation after generation, in the skills of delivery. The earliest specialists our species ever produced. Picture what that support actually looked like. In some traditional societies studied by anthropologists, a birth was accompanied by specific songs, sung only during labor, passed down from woman to woman like a kind of medicine made of sound. In others, older female relatives applied steady counterpressure to a laboring woman's back and hips. A real technique, still recommended by midwives today, that eases pain during the exact rotations a human baby is forced to make. None of these details are guesses. They come from ethnographic records of societies that, until recently, gave birth much the way humans always had, without hospitals, but never truly without help. This is where the mystery finally turns toward home. If human birth has always required a support system, not as a luxury, but as a biological necessity built into our anatomy itself, then something about us was wired for connection before it was wired for almost anything else, before language as we know it existed, before permanent settlements, before agriculture, before villages, before names for the seasons. There was a woman in labor, and there was someone kneeling beside her. Think about that the next time you picture a delivery room today. Nurses, monitors, a doctor, a partner gripping a hand. It's easy to assume all of that is a modern invention, built by hospitals in the last century or two, but new evidence suggests the instinct underneath it is almost certainly far older, stretching back through hundreds of thousands of years of women helping women survive the most dangerous moment of their lives. So, when we finally ask how ancient mothers delivered babies in the wild, the honest answer is this. Many of them probably didn't do it in the wild, alone, the way we tend to imagine. They did it surrounded by hands, by voices, by people who refused to let them face it by themselves. And in a strange, quiet way, that single fact may be one of the earliest reasons human beings ever learned to trust one another at all.